Hello, welcome back to the Classic Working Vehicles channel. If you watched the last episode, you'll know that I've started another restoration on a Unimog 421. And at the moment, I'm stood more or less where the engine should be in the middle of the cab while I'm carrying out some of that work. There's fairly extensive corrosion in the cab, and things are going to look worse before they look better. So let me start to take you through that process. So we're looking at the right-hand front corner of the cab, and it's just about ready to come off. You used to be able to get a complete replacement panel all the way up to a fold here that would fit the 421 and 406, but I've had a good look around, and all I can find now is one of these panels, and often that's enough. Chop out the old metal and put this in. But it would have been nice to be able to replace all of this panel in one go. As it is, I'm going to have to try and reuse this. I've got to do something about this ragged edge up here. But there's clearly quite a bit of corrosion, well, extensive corrosion inside this door pillar. To be able to get at that, I really need to take this off. And the way this is connected is a series of spot welds inside here. I've with the wire brush on the angle grinder, I've taken off the paint here to try and see. There's usually witness marks. You probably can't see it on camera, but there's usually witness marks for what the spot welds are. So what I need to do is gently drill out these spot welds, make a cut down here as well. This part of the panel is going to be replaced anyway. And then I should be able to remove this, hopefully to be able to reuse it, repair it, and I'll be able to repair it on the bench and things then, which should be a little bit more straightforward. Although saying that, actually to keep its shape, it might make most sense to repair this corner and bring this back up in situ and gradually repair it, put it on, take it off, put it on, take it off, that sort of thing. Well, my head is basically inside where the engine would be, and I'm down inside looking at the front right-hand wing. I've reached the conclusion I think I'm going to have to take this panel off entirely to address the rust up on the side of the body. So inside I've ground off the paint again with the wire brush, but I've tried to do it in such a way that you can see the depressions where the spot weld gun in the factory left these indentations. There's another one. There we go, right up under here. So what I need to do is see if I can center punch these and drill them out. Now somewhere in my workshop I have some spot weld drills, and the idea of those is that they have a much flatter tip. And so you only go through one layer of steel rather than two, and that then means you can puddle weld the panel you've removed back on using those holes. Can I find those drill bits? No, I can't. So I think what I'm going to do is probably drill a small pilot hole, hopefully through the first, but only through the first sheet. If it goes all the way through, it's not the end of the world. I'm going to have to do welding repairs down here anyway with that front corner I've shown you. So I'll drill out a pilot, I'll center punch it, drill a pilot hole, and then use a larger drill bit that's maybe a little bit bigger than the spot weld diameter, and hope that that's enough to free it off. What I don't want to be doing is getting in there and trying to chisel these apart, because I need to reuse this panel, so I don't want to be distorting it. How easy this is going to be to film, I don't know. I'll try and set up the camera, but we'll have a go. little ring of rust that tells us we should be through to the next level, or the second sheet, but we haven't gone all the way through. So let's see if there's any movement there. If not, I'll go up a drill size. So you can probably see that that's starting to move now. Not got through this one yet, but we're getting there. There we go. It's off. So there we are. There's the spot welds drilled out. Got better access to this corner now. And you can see the issue here. Why I needed to be able to get behind this panel to make repairs. If we look at the panel itself, actually not too bad. All here to sort out, which is above the repair panel line, unfortunately, but I'm sure it'll be doable. Yeah, hopefully that is savable. Great, well that means I've got much better access. And the good news is the other side isn't like anything like as bad, so I won't have to go as far with that side. So it might look pretty dramatic, but it does mean I'll be able to make a proper repair now. Just thought we'd have another look on the inside of this panel and try and show you why these cabs are so susceptible to corrosion. If you look here, look, this is the factory finish, the yellow paint here, and inside the cab there's another wall of steel here, another sheet of steel here that makes the inside of the footwell. But of course no paint could get up inside there, and it never was painted. I mean, the remarkable thing is, we get up here, look, you can see actually some of the steel hasn't corroded. But where there's no paint, there is surface corrosion, but it's actually not too bad in those areas because air could get in there, moisture could get in there, but at least it could dry out. Where it suffers really badly is where it's steel against steel, so moisture gets trapped and the corrosion takes off. So around here, the way it's joined, it's just a folded lip over the wheel arch, and it suffers really badly for corrosion. It's got the additional problem there that any water's running down on the cab wall can get trapped in that fold, but also road debt getting thrown up, all of those sorts of issues. So you can kind of predict, you know, even though there's a fold up here, look, it's folded back over on itself. There's no corrosion there, and it's because it's at the top, and the fold is, the opening of the fold is downwards when it's in position, so any moisture in there can get out. So this is the problem. If we look at the main structure of the cab, box section, these sills, base of the door openings on the cab. They're good and sound up here. In fact, remarkably good. They're often really rotten up here, but this one's okay up there. But the back end, very bad. And again, inside these box sections, there was never any rust treatment. So often they are rusting from the inside out, or where something's bolted against it. So again, the moisture gets trapped. So that's the issue we're trying to address. Similarly with this door pillar, which is particularly bad. And I think looking at this corner has been out in the weather wherever this vehicle was stored. My guess would be that the other corner, have a quick look, which is much, much better. Not thinking I'm going to have to replace this panel at all. There's work to do up here. But down here is good. I'm guessing this has been undercover, whereas the other side's had the weather on it and has been allowed to get wet and stay wet. Bad corrosion up here, but again, it's another water trap. Water can get down around the windscreen inside here, and it hasn't really got anywhere to go. So it gets trapped and it stays wet and it corrodes. The other advantage often with this corner, it depends on the specification of the Unimog, but this one, because it had a full hydraulic system, this is where the hydraulic tank sits. Hydraulic oil gets spilt or it leaks, so it makes this corner an oily mess. That's a good thing though, really. When it comes to corrosion, it kind of often protects this corner. So I'm not expecting to find loads of corrosion in this corner when I sandblast it. What I've also decided to do here is, having taken out this all feels pretty strong, but I noticed that this is corroded on this edge, so I'm going to have to chop this out and weld some new steel in there. So I thought, as a preventative measure, I've just put a strengthening bar in here to try and keep everything in line and rigid. Generally, when I do something like this, what I try and do, if there's somewhere where there's already bolt holes, I'll try and make a bracket and just make use of them, so I'm not welding to the thing I'm trying to repair too much. Sometimes it's unavoidable. So like on this lip here, I've put a little bit of weld to keep it all nice and rigid and strong. But even there, that's actually going to, I will clean that up and you won't know there was ever a weld there when it's done. But it's also hidden under the lip of the bonnet. So it won't be noticeable when it's done. The rest of it, despite these corners, there's a lot of strength in this shape here. So I'm pretty confident the back end is going to remain in shape. You can see I've cut out a lot of the floor. I think what I've decided to do is areas like this, I'm going to repair before I sandblast or media blast it. I would want to blast it even after repair anyway, just to give it a good key for the paint. So I think what I'm going to try and do is do the bulk of the repairs before I take all the paint off. I suspect when I blast it, it'll reveal more corrosion, more holes. I can then do them as a second stage of the process. But I think at the moment, it makes sense to work on some of this at this point. So the next job, I think, is dismantling doors, or what's left of the doors, really. So let's take a look. So what I did a couple of days ago was wherever there's a nut and a bolt with the door, and there's quite a few, I've squirted some WD-40 on there to see if that would help loosen off any screws and bolts. So we'll see. Things that are rusted like this, a couple of things I would say that are worth taking a bit of time to do. If there's paint in the screw heads, it's worth heating them. I use a small blowtorch, just heating the middle of the screw. Have a think about what the screw is through though. Obviously if it's a plastic fitting, that might not be the best idea. And then taking a minute to scrape out any paint or corrosion that you can out of the screw head, because that will then mean the screwdriver will have a much better grip. Also worth using is an impact driver. Something's obstinate. Oh, they're coming undone easily. But what an impact driver will do, if you haven't used one before, is You can either have it turned left-handed or right-handed, put it in your screw, hit it with a hammer, and it will shock the screw. Doesn't always work, but often it will get undone screws that you just end up struggling with a screwdriver, or damaging the slot in them, meaning that they don't come apart. This one's coming apart really well. Whether that's luck or the WD-40, I don't know. There we are. There's the handle come out. And the screws are in decent condition, so can be reused. Just get the washers off, spring washers. Trim the stopping it out. There we are. So this is one of the door hinges, which you can see is really corroded, and the bolt, it's a socket head bolt, snapped off in the process of trying to take it out. So things like this, it would be easy to scrap it, but actually they're really quite expensive to replace. So it's always worth seeing if you can dismantle them. So I'm going to try applying a bit of heat around the threaded tube where the bolt went in, and see if that will loosen the sheared bolt off. And to do that, I'm going to use an induction heater. And what this does is uses a magnetic field to excite and therefore heat ferrous metals, so steel, iron, or anything iron-based. Usually pass this over a bolt, something of that sort. And underneath this magnetic field it will heat it to cherry red. So we'll try that and see if it loosens off this broken bolt. So what you should be able to see, the magnetic induction is heating steel. You see that's gone cherry red. And then on the bolt, hopefully it won't snap. There we go. So there we are, we've got the old bolt out. I'm not going to pick that up at the moment, but that should mean that door hinge is reusable once it's cleaned up. Now, often the hardest thing to undo on these is these bolts. Can't really get at the threads behind, they're on captive nuts. And because they're socket heads, it's really easy to round them out. So I'll have a go at undoing them, but I suspect I'll have to drill them out. We'll see. No. So it's not that I couldn't put a bigger lever on them and apply more torque, it's that I just feel that it's going to round out those socket heads at any moment if I try and put any more pressure on. So I think it's all the fittings off, apart from the door hinges. So what I now need to do is get the door skin off the frame, and that's spot welded on. I'm going to drill out those spot welds and see if I can get this apart. So I'm not drilling all the way through the steel, I'm only drilling through the first layer. Well, that's what I'm trying to do. Usually if I see a bit of rust in the swarf that's coming out of the hole I'm drilling, that tells me I'm through to the next level, next layer. Looks like some of these have popped anyway due to corrosion. That moved, so let's just see. There we go. That's that bit free. So the door hinges at this end are holding the skin of the door on, so I'm just going to angle grind through here. So hopefully that will mean the skin will then come off. I'm also going to cut it here because I'm replacing this part of it. There we go. Nice. Cobwebs. There's the old door skin, which we won't be using. So I think what I'm going to do here is drill out the heads of these socket head bolts. That will then hopefully mean I can get the hinges off. That's one. Second hinge. So that one at the moment doesn't want to undo. That one's undone, but I'm leaving it in there just so it's got something to twist against. And I'm trying to do that again. So I'm just going to leave that soaking overnight with WD-40, see if it comes apart. So when you drill out a door hinge like this, it tends to leave part of the socket head, or leave the socket head itself inside when it's recessed like this. So that ring you can see is outside, actually the outside ring of the socket head bolt. And sometimes you're lucky and you can just knock it out from the other side, but there's no real lip on these. So I think what I'm going to try and do is heat this part of the hinge with the induction heater. That'll expand it a little bit, hopefully get things moving, and then I'll see if I can knock these out. So there you are. You wouldn't know they'd been drilled out now. They look a bit messy at the moment. By the time they're sandblasted, they'll look good as new. So there we are. That's all the fittings off the two doors. And apart from a few nuts and bolts that had to be cut, pretty much everything, certainly all the expensive bits, look like they're going to be reusable again. And that's what's left of the door, which may not look too promising, but all I really need is the frame. And there's enough here to work from and repair it. And here's one of the new door skins. So you can see what a difference that's potentially going to make. So for fun, what I've done is put the old, what's left of the old door frame into the new door skin. And you can see, hopefully, how this is going to work. So I feel like I've made a pretty good start on cutting out a lot of the corrosion in the cab. Probably looks a bit daunting at this stage if you're not used to doing this sort of work. As I said at the beginning of the video, these things always look worse before they look better. But I'm confident with time and care it is all repairable. However, I'm going to put the cab to one side for a while now because I really need and want to turn my attention to the chassis, engine and gearbox. At the moment, the engine doesn't run, so I want to make an assessment of it and start to think about what parts it might need, because there's probably going to be quite a long lead time on many of those things if they need replacing. So in a future episode, that's what we'll be looking at. Anyway, thank you for watching this episode. I hope you found it interesting. See you in the next one. Oh dear.